I mean, it took us almost close to 5 years to get the show pitched. Show on television is just like, it's like winning the lotto twice.
Frank Fritz wasn't just a familiar face on TV. He was a legend in the world of picking, uncovering forgotten treasures with an infectious enthusiasm. Millions followed his journey, but few knew his struggles behind the scenes. From small-town beginnings to nationwide fame, his life was a roller coaster of passion, challenges, and unexpected turns. But now, shocking news has left fans stunned. What happened to Frank Fritz? And what secrets have surfaced that change everything? Stay with us as we unravel the truth. The rise of American pickers, Frank Fritz's journey. Frank Fritz became one of the most recognizable faces in the world of picking, but his story was about more than just antiques.
American picker star Frank Fritz has died at the age of 60 after suffering a devastating stroke 2 years ago.
It was a journey of passion, friendship, and an unexpected fallout that left fans stunned.
Alongside his friend Mike Wolf, Frank brought the art of picking to millions of viewers.
With his scruffy beard, mischievous grin, and sharp eye for hidden treasures, Frank turned the hunt for antiques into an adventure. His humor and charm made him a fan favorite, but behind the scenes, things weren't always as smooth as they seemed. Before American Pickers became a hit, Frank was just a collector with a deep love for rare finds. But he wasn't alone. His co-star, Mike Wolf, shared the same passion.
Surrounded by friends, including longtime business partner and American Pickers co-star Mike Wolf.
The two met in middle school in Bettendorf, Iowa, but they weren't instant friends. Over time, their shared love for antiques brought them together. Mike was the visionary. He believed picking could be more than just a hobby. He filmed his adventures, pitched his ideas to networks, and dreamed of turning his passion into something bigger. Frank, on the other hand, was content running his antique shop, Frank's Finds, enjoying the thrill of discovery without the need for cameras. It took some convincing, but eventually, Frank agreed to join Mike on the road. Neither of them expected what would come next. When American Pickers premiered on the History Channel in 2010, it was an instant success.
Standing next to the one and only Frank Fritz from History Channel's American Pickers.
The concept was simple. Two guys traveling the country, searching through barns and garages for hidden treasures. But what set the show apart wasn't just the antiques, it was the people behind them. That's where Frank excelled. While Mike was the fast-talking negotiator, Frank connected with people. He wasn't just making deals, he was building relationships. His jokes and easygoing nature made homeowners feel comfortable, turning every transaction into an entertaining moment. Whether digging through junk or excitedly showing off a vintage gas pump, Frank's passion was genuine, and fans loved him for it. For over a decade, American Pickers thrived, with millions of viewers tuning in to watch Mike and Frank crisscross the country in search of rusty gold. Their dynamic worked. Mike was the ambitious leader, Frank the lovable sidekick, and Danielle Colby kept things running from behind the scenes. But beneath the surface, tension was growing. In 2020, fans noticed Frank's absence from several episodes.
Some of his longtime friends today to learn more about him away from the spotlight and the legacy wafa that he leaves behind.
At first, there was little explanation. Then, the truth emerged. Frank had taken time off due to serious health issues, including back surgery, that left him with 185 stitches and 2 rods in his spine. But that wasn't the only challenge. He was also battling personal struggles, including addiction. Despite expressing a strong desire to return, Frank's comeback never happens. In 2021, Mike announced that Frank was no longer part of American Pickers. The statement was brief and lacked the warmth fans expected. There was no tribute, no heartfelt goodbye, just confirmation that Frank was gone. The fallout and a friendship broken. What happened between Frank and Mike? Was Frank's departure just about his health, or was there something deeper at play? Had years of friendship unraveled into something far worse? Stay with us as we uncover the truth behind one of reality TV's most shocking breakups, the fallout, a friendship broken, and the untold truth of Frank Fritz. Frank Fritz was more than just a sidekick. He was the heart of American Pickers, bringing humor, authenticity, and an undeniable passion for picking. Alongside Mike Wolf, He helped turn the show into a massive success, while Danielle Colby kept things running smoothly behind the scenes. But behind the friendly banter and exciting finds, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. In 2020, fans started noticing something strange. Frank was missing from episodes. At first, there was little explanation, but soon the truth came out. Frank had stepped away due to serious health issues, including a major back surgery that left him with 185 stitches and 2 rods in his spine.
American Picker star Mike Wolf store antique archaeology and just steps away from his vacation rental Tulane's guest house.
But his struggles didn't stop there. He was also dealing with personal battles, including addiction. For a while, it seemed like he might return. Fans hoped, speculated, and waited. But in 2021, Mike broke the news. Frank was officially out of American Pickers. The announcement was short, lacking the warmth or appreciation one would expect after years of working together. The news stunned viewers, but what came next was even more shocking. Frank didn't stay silent. In an emotional interview, he called Mike's statement BS and revealed a harsh truth. During his time away, Mike never once called to check on him. Imagine that. After decades of working side by side, one of them goes through life-changing surgery, and the other doesn't even reach out? Frank made it clear. Off-screen, their relationship was never as close as people assumed. According to him, Mike had long wanted him off the show, and when the opportunity came, he took it. This revelation shattered the image of their unbreakable partnership, and fans were heartbroken. How could 2 men who had traveled the country together, shared countless laughs, and built something incredible just fall apart? Despite the bitter ending, one thing remained true. Frank Fritz was a huge reason why American Pickers became the success that it was. He wasn't just another reality TV star, he was real. His genuine excitement over an antique toy, his witty one-liners, and his ability to turn a dull pick into an adventure made fans love him. Even after his departure, people continued to support him, hoping for his return, or at least a reconciliation with Mike. Sadly, that never happened. The partnership that once seemed unshakable had crumbled beyond repair. But Frank's impact on the world of picking didn't end with American Pickers. His love for antiques and his larger-than-life personality had already cemented his place in history. But before the fame, the road trips, and the success, who was Frank Fritz? What moments from his past shaped the man millions came to know and love? Stay tuned as we uncover the early life of the man behind the picks, Frank Fritz. From collector to picking pioneer. Frank Fritz was born on October 11, 1963 in Davenport, Iowa, with a fascination for things most people overlooked. While other kids were busy with sports or toys, Frank was already on the hunt for hidden gems. He wasn't just collecting for the sake of it, he was searching for history. Whether it was coins, stamps, beer cans, or even old razor blades, he saw value where others saw junk. Imagine being a child and stepping into an antique shop surrounded by dusty shelves, the faint ticking of old clocks, and faded photographs with unknown faces staring back at you. That was the world Frank fell in love with. Every item had a past, and he wanted to know its story. Who wore this vintage leather jacket? Where did this rusted sign once hang? These weren't just objects, they were pieces of time, and Frank was determined to uncover their secrets. As he grew older, his passion only deepened. He moved beyond small collectibles and set his sights on bigger treasures: motorcycles, dirt bikes, and rare memorabilia. Flea markets, garage sales, and auctions became his playgrounds. While some saw a young man with an unusual hobby, Frank saw something much greater. Picking wasn't just an interest, it was a way of life. But his path wasn't straightforward. After high school, Frank didn't immediately dive into the antique world as a full-time career. Instead, life took him in a completely different direction, one that required discipline, precision, and a commitment to public safety. For nearly 25 years, Frank worked as a fire inspector in Iowa. While his day job focused on ensuring buildings met safety standards, his passion for collecting never faded. Ironically, his career only fueled his love for antiques. As a fire inspector, he gained access to old buildings, firehouses, and warehouses. each one filled with forgotten relics. He found himself drawn to firehouse memorabilia, collecting antique helmets, extinguishers, and vintage fire alarms. What started as a side hobby soon became an obsession, and he realized something crucial. These collectibles weren't just personal treasures, they had real value. Frank began buying and selling items, turning his passion into a profitable side business. The thrill of discovering forgotten relics and giving them new life was exhilarating. But as his collection grew, so did his ambition. What if he could do this full-time? What if he could turn his love for picking into a real career? Leaving behind a stable job wasn't an easy decision, but Frank took the risk. He opened his antique shop, Frank's Finds, specializing in firemen's equipment and unique trinkets. It was a small start, but it was a step towards something much bigger. But Frank's journey didn't stop at a small antique shop. How did his passion transform into a full-fledged business, leading to one of the most successful careers ever? Stay tuned as we uncover the next chapter in Frank Fritz's incredible story. Frank Fritz, the passion beyond picking. Frank Fritz was more than just a familiar face on television. He was a dedicated collector, a savvy businessman, and a man who lived and breathed antiques. His time on American Pickers gave the world a glimpse into his expertise, but his impact stretched far beyond what cameras captured. Picking wasn't just a career for Frank. It was a lifelong passion, a way of preserving history, and a means to share stories from the past. He understood that the world of antiques was evolving. Gone were the days when collectors relied solely on brick-and-mortar shops to find rare treasures. The rise of online marketplaces changed the game, and Frank adapted quickly. He expanded his business into the digital space, selling rare finds to buyers across the globe. Through social media and online platforms, he reached a wider audience than ever before, proving that the thrill of picking could extend far beyond the road trips seen on television. For those who followed American Pickers, one thing was clear. Frank's love for motorcycles was undeniable. It wasn't a passing phase or just part of the show. It was something that had been in his blood since his teenage years. One of his earliest antique purchases was a 1964 Harley-Davidson, a decision that likely made his parents raise an eyebrow but cemented his lifelong obsession with vintage bikes. Over the years, he built an impressive collection, filling entire barns with classic motorcycles, each with its own story. But Frank didn't just collect, he educated. In 2013, he took his knowledge a step further and wrote How to Pick Vintage Motorcycles, a guide that walked readers through the process of discovering, purchasing, and maintaining classic bikes. The book even included a section on vintage toy motorcycles, proving that his enthusiasm extended to the smallest details. Writing a book is no easy feat, but Frank's hands-on experience and genuine love for the craft made his guide an invaluable resource for collectors and enthusiasts alike. His influence didn't stop at books or business. Frank made it his mission to give back to the antique community. Over the years, he partnered with fellow collectors to host antique fairs and exhibitions, bringing together dealers, historians, and fans. Whether through live events, interviews, or co-authoring American Pickers' Guide to Picking, he shared his expertise in a way that made the world of antiques accessible and exciting. Frank had a rare ability to turn history into something living and engaging. Every item had a past worth uncovering, whether it was a weathered gas station sign or a forgotten childhood toy from the 1950s. He believed that collecting wasn't just about acquiring objects, but about preserving the stories that came with them. However, even as he built a thriving career, struggles were lurking beneath the surface. Fame, success, and a growing empire came with challenges that few saw coming. What was happening behind the scenes? What battles was Frank facing that went beyond the world of picking? Frank Fritz, the hidden struggles behind the spotlight. Frank Fritz was a familiar face on American Pickers, always brimming with energy, cracking jokes, and striking deals over dusty antiques. To fans, he was the man who could turn a pile of rust into a treasure. But away from the cameras, beneath the charm and infectious enthusiasm, he was fighting battles that few ever saw. Like many public figures, Frank kept his private life just that, private. For years, whispers surrounded his fluctuating weight. Some brushed it off as a natural part of aging, while others speculated something more serious was at play. Eventually, Frank broke his silence, revealing that he had been battling Crohn's disease, a chronic and often debilitating illness that attacks the digestive tract. The disease wasn't just painful, it was unpredictable. Severe stomach cramps, relentless fatigue, and dramatic weight loss became his reality. He lost 65 pounds in his effort to control his symptoms, relying on a strict diet to keep flare-ups at bay. But Crohn's is more than a physical affliction. It's an emotional toll, a constant cloud of uncertainty looming over every meal, every trip, every moment. Despite the challenges, Frank refused to let his condition define him. He kept picking, kept laughing, kept moving forward. To the world, he was a man with an unstoppable spirit, but the pressure that came with fame was mounting. American Pickers transformed him from an everyday antique lover into a household name. The show's success meant recognition everywhere he went. Fans expected the upbeat, wisecracking Frank they saw on screen, but inside, anxiety weighed on him. The spotlight wasn't always kind, and the pressure to maintain a public persona became suffocating. In a rare moment of honesty, Frank admitted that fame wasn't the golden ticket people assumed it to be. To cope, he turned to medication. He was prescribed Xanax, a drug often used to treat anxiety. But in 2017, a decision would come back to haunt him. One night, Frank got behind the wheel after drinking and taking his medication. Driving the wrong way on an Iowa interstate, he was pulled over and charged with operating while intoxicated. It was his first offense, but the consequences were steep: fines, substance education courses, and a dent in his reputation that wouldn't easily fade. As if his health struggles and legal troubles weren't enough, Frank's personal life was unraveling too. He had been engaged to Diane Bankin, a woman he once envisioned a future with. He bought a home for them and an expensive ring and built dreams on a foundation he believed was solid. But those dreams crumbled when accusations of infidelity surfaced. Diane claimed she caught him with another woman in their farmhouse, ending their engagement in a storm of betrayal and heartbreak. But Frank told a different story, one in which Diane was the unfaithful one, secretly seeing another man for over 2 years. The breakup left deep scars, so much so that Frank inked a permanent reminder on his skin: once a cheater, always a cheater. The fallout didn't stop there. Diane filed a lawsuit against him, alleging negligence, though the case was later dismissed. By then, the damage had been done. Frank was left feeling isolated, his name dragged through the mud, and his pain turned into a public spectacle. The weight of it all drove him deeper into drinking. He had seen the destructive grip of alcohol before. His mother and his grandfather had both struggled. Both had succumbed. Frank knew he was on the same path. He didn't want to follow in their footsteps, so he made a choice that would change everything. Rehab, a 77-day program in Iowa, a chance to break free, to start fresh. He later admitted that drinking no longer gave him pleasure. It was just a habit, a cycle he was desperate to escape. He wanted to be healthy, to regain control of his life. But was it too late? The final journey of Frank Fritz? What happened when the cameras stopped rolling? What was waiting for him on the other side of his fight for redemption? Stay tuned, because the story only gets more shocking from here. The final journey of Frank Fritz. A farewell to a legend. In July 2022, Frank Fritz's world was turned upside down. At his home in Davenport, Iowa, he suffered a massive stroke.
A stroke is something that can happen at any age, at any time, and Central Texas doctors.
An event that would alter the course of his life forever. Found unresponsive, he was rushed to the hospital, where doctors fought to stabilize him. Fans, family, and friends held their breath, hoping he would pull through. After nearly a month in the hospital, Frank was moved to a rehabilitation center. But this wasn't just about healing. It was about relearning life itself. A stroke can steal the ability to walk, talk, and even think clearly.
Yeah, there's your name. It says Frank right on.
It says Frank right on the back.
That's right.
And you know what it says right on the front here? Yeah. It says $60.
For Frank, who had already battled Crohn's disease, addiction, and personal turmoil, this was yet another uphill climb. The man who once navigated the back roads of America in search of hidden treasures now struggled with the most basic tasks. His independence was gone. A court had to appoint a guardian to oversee his daily life, and a bank took control of his finances. The cost of care was staggering. Reports estimated it at $29,000 a month. Every dollar was a reminder of how much his condition had taken from him. But money wasn't the only thing weighing on him. Frank had spent years estranged from his American Pickers co-star, Mike Wolfe. Their once strong bond had frayed under the pressure of fame, misunderstandings, and time. But when tragedy struck, everything changed. The past no longer mattered. Mike reached out, visiting Frank as he recovered, checking in on the man he had once called his closest friend. In those quiet moments, the old anger melted away. They talked, reminisced, and even laughed, reliving the adventures that had once made them inseparable. Whatever had driven them apart no longer had a place in their conversations. By September 2024, Frank's condition had worsened. His body, already weakened from years of health struggles, was failing him. The news came. His time was running out. When Mike got the call, he didn't hesitate. He dropped everything and rushed to be by Frank's side. He wasn't alone. Frank's mother and a close family friend were there too. It was a moment of quiet intimacy, a final gathering of those who loved him most. As Frank took his last breaths, Mike held his hand, whispering words of love, forgiveness, and peace. "Go find your mom," he told him. And then, Frank was gone. His official cause of death was complications from his stroke.
We also learned today that American Picker star Frank Fritz has died.
Worsened by aortic stenosis, a condition that made even the simplest movements a struggle. His body had been fighting for so long, but in the end, it could fight no more. But was this truly the end of Frank Fritz's story? Or did his legacy continue in ways no one expected? What did he leave behind? And how does his passion live on today? Stay tuned, the story isn't over yet. Frank Fritz's hidden treasure and legacy. Frank Fritz's love for antiques was undeniable, but if there was one passion that rivaled it, it was motorcycles. From a young age, he was captivated by their power, craftsmanship, and history. But no one truly understood the scale of his collection, until now. After his passing, friends, collectors, and insiders finally gained access to his private garage. What they found was nothing short of breathtaking. Row after row of vintage motorcycles lined the space, some gathering dust, others gleaming like they had just been polished. Indian motorcycles, classic Harley-Davidsons, old-school choppers. Everywhere they looked, there were rare historic bikes, some fully restored, others waiting for a final touch. It was more than a collection. It was a hidden sanctuary, a reflection of Frank's lifelong devotion to preserving history on two wheels. For fans, the idea of these bikes being sold off is unthinkable. Each machine held a story. Bikes Frank had traveled across the country to find, pieces he had spent years restoring, and treasures that were more than just metal and rubber. They were extensions of who he was, his greatest passion beyond picking. Yet if whispers from insiders are true, an auction is already being planned. But here's where the real twist comes in. This isn't just about selling off a collection. According to sources close to Frank, the proceeds from the auction won't be going into a private estate or a business fund. Instead, they will be donated to charity. A final, unexpected act of generosity from a man who dedicated his life to finding, preserving, and sharing history. Even Tucker Carlson, who almost broke this story, was left stunned. "This is shocking," he reportedly said. "This man was just here, and now his legacy is being spread across the world, piece by piece, like a final chapter he never got to write himself." What do you think about Frank Fritz's journey? Let's hear your thoughts in the comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.